Welcome to the Brave Little Podcast. Avengers Assemble! All right, I brought two of my Avenger friends. As usual, my co-host from Los Angeles, California. It's Aaron Odinson. Aaron, how you doing?
Dun, 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 dun. Hey, what's up, boys? Jeff, David, what's going on, fellas?
Immigrant song.
The immigrant has arrived.
And joining
Actually,
us for the second time, he joined us. This is not his first time on the Brave Little Podcast from San Diego. Jeff Presnall. How you doing, man?
JP.
Thank you guys for having me. This is great.
Thanks for doing this. Look, you're a newfound father. It's not easy to do things like this with children. They require time. They got to take naps. They got to feed, all this stuff. I don't know how much of that you're responsible for, but thanks for making the time.
I really appreciate you guys having me. When you asked me to do the podcast, my immediate reaction was, there's just no way. I can't see movies anymore. And then simultaneously, I realized that I had bought tickets to see the Avengers opening night and had already booked a babysitter and had tickets for, the IMAX showing at 7:00 Friday night. And I was like, I could do a podcast. I could do this. If I put the baby to sleep at this time and we pack it this time, I can make it work. And so through all the hoops and holler, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you guys for having me.
Perfect. Well, it's great to have you. We're going to jump right into it. I guess a fair word of warning at the up top here. We're going to give our initial reactions and give our own kind of Rotten Tomatoes score, or essentially 0 to 100 scale score. And we will keep that part spoiler free. After we talk about our general feelings about the film, we will then get into spoilers, and I'll give a fair warning. We will talk about what worked and what didn't work. But at least for this next maybe 10-ish minutes, we will keep it spoiler free. So let's talk about, this is a movie event. I remember the first Avengers film being such a big event and being like, how are they going to do this in a movie? They've got Thor and Iron Man and Captain America to cover. Like, how are they going to do that in a movie?
It's like 6 characters. How do you fit everybody in?
And so now here we are at Infinity War, and there's like 400 characters. So
seriously though, like how many characters did they fit in? Was it like 60, 63?
A tremendous amount.
Yeah,
I read it was in the 70s. That's what I read.
I mean, they fit in every character who gave a crap, which showed that Hawkeye and Ant-Man don't care about the end of the world. Not at all. Ant-Man is in San Francisco in a bubble.
No, you know what? My wife said that Ant-Man wasn't there, and I said, "Are you sure?"
Ooh, could you see him?
Maybe he was there.
No, Hawkeye wanted to retire on a farm where apparently he doesn't get CNN to see that the world is ending. Apparently. But look, hopefully he had a good crop season. I really hope so.
Well,
because
we know that Hawkeye retired to be a park ranger, and he's living on a Indian reservation
up in Wyoming.
Up in Wyoming, exactly. He's solving murders in the snow.
That's right.
With the Scarlet Witch. Strangely enough.
Well, I think that his quote in Age of Ultron spoke volumes. It's like, we're being attacked by aliens. We're on a floating island, and I have a bow and arrow.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
nothing makes sense.
No.
It was probably fine that he wasn't in it.
No, it was. I mean, look, the fact is I that's one of the things that, I mean, you have to suspend disbelief. Okay. But
no,
the reality is
I won't do it.
Yeah. We're going to get to that. There's a ton of disbelief needing to be suspended here. And that's fine because, like I said, this was an event of a film. I'll tell you, I really do love going opening night here because you get a crowd that's really into it. They're cheering at every character introduction, and it makes it fun. I will say my crowd veered into slightly annoying. So there's about 3 full rows of people behind me that all came, big group together. They all came, I kid you not, in matching Wakanda shirts that have a printed the Wakanda necklace and this Wakanda. I'm not kidding. They came in single file into the theater, silently, heads bowed, the Wakanda symbol. By the way, all these people are white. Every last one of them. All of them white. And
in Folsom, I'm shocked.
Absolutely white. And so they come up, heads bowed, doing the Wakanda thing. Their heads are bowed. I'm like, I hope they can see the steps. They got about 30 more steps. So I wouldn't have minded had they tripped, but they all come up in this theatrical display. And I'm sitting there thinking this is going to be either really awesome or really not awesome, and I've got the feeling it's gonna be more of the latter.
Yeah, I actually had a similar experience at my showing.
Really?
Yeah, well, not as extreme, but we did have a big group behind us, and for the most part, they were quiet except for one. For whatever reason, one girl decided to comment anytime there was a break in the action. Had to give her commentary. Had to express her disbelief that something just happened.
Like to a friend next to her, or just
to
out
the world?
note?
Just to the world. She decided to voice her opinion, and I think like we were almost about to yell at her to shut up until we turned around and noticed that she was crying during one of the scenes. So I think I just let her be. Just let her.
We'll address that in the spoiler section, but I want to guess which scene she was crying at.
I think it was the scene I was crying at. I hope.
The opening credits.
We did it.
So I want to get a good gauge for how you guys generally like this film, and I want to do that by asking what would you give the Rotten Tomatoes score? We'll start with our guest Jeff. What score do you give this film?
Well, I don't know. Rotten Tomato score. I mean, most Marvel movies tend to get really, really good scores. They're good for kind of a wide audience, and this, did just that. I think that when you have so many characters and you're going over so many different plot points, I think it gets a little confusing. Just to preview, one of the things that I, didn't necessarily like in particular was that it was kind of hard to follow what each of the Infinity Stones' power was. Mm-hmm. And maybe on a second viewing that it'll be a little bit more apparent. Just a little bit confusing.
Can you name all 6 Infinity Stones?
Say that again?
Can you name all 6 stones?
No.
Gall, kidney, rolling. I don't know. I'm out of stones.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I absolutely could not do it. I wrote it down because I was trying to recall. I got 3, but it's space, reality, power, soul, mind, and time.
Is that the Infinity Stones or the Captain Planet rings? I don't know.
Might as well be.
Yeah.
So I think 90. I think I would give it 90. So not in the high A, but I would still give it the A.
All right, Aaron, I got a feeling you're going to be a little less than that.
Yeah, I'm not in the 90s, that's for sure. So I actually like Metacritic a lot better than Rotten Tomato.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
The Metacritic rating for Infinity War is actually a solid 68. And that's...
for the newbie, what is Metacritic?
It's not. It's a scoring system for snobs.
It's basically Rotten.
I mean, that's what I thought it was.
It's Rotten Tomato with actual standards. So I mean that's if you like standards.
It's Rotten Tomatoes without the Russians.
Yeah, exactly. There's no hacking involved, no bots. So there's actually 52 critics that rated this movie, and they averaged it out to 68 as the general score. And I'm much closer to that, I would say. If I had to rate Infinity War Part 1, we're calling it, 72 is what a solid 72.
So according to, Rotten Tomato score, that is fresh.
Mm-hmm. I'll say it's fresh. I'll say it's a fresh movie.
Okay, yeah. So I will too. I'm going to be in between you guys here. Honestly, my number is 83.
Good.
It was going to be like between 83, 84, not quite 85. So solely for me, just because there's an enjoyment, just a level of like, did I enjoy this film? Like, did I enjoy watching this movie? And I did. It was a blast to watch. The comparison I make to people is that it's like a band's greatest hits album. Like, it's fun to listen to because it's like, oh yeah, I love these songs. But as a whole, the album doesn't totally work, right? Like I'm going to use a Weezer example because it's me, but like Pinkerton is an album that needs to be consumed within itself, right? Like from the beginning track, from track 1 to 10, the first track is Tired of Sex, to the last track, Butterfly. And there's a story that's being told. You can grab a few of those tracks and throw it on a greatest hits. It still sounds awesome.
Yeah, let me translate that for Jeff. Jeff, I'm going to translate. I'm going to translate it to Blink-182. This movie has a lot of all the small things and a lot of damn it. Okay. An Adam song here or there.
Great, yeah. Yeah,
but nothing fresh.
Well, I was confused. I think you used this like a Pinkerton analogy for The Last Jedi?
My friend, I am full of Pinkerton analogies. If I can make anything analogous to Pinkerton, I absolutely will.
Yeah.
I
Rightfully so.
ride or die with that album.
Yeah.
It's Weezer's masterpiece. I mean, they have two masterpieces, to be clear. That's one of them. But so the Beatles, right? Like Sgt. Pepper's an album definitely needs to be consumed in itself. But I listened to the Beatles 21 album, which is the 21 songs they had that were hit number one. It's fun to listen to. I feel empty at the end, but it was a blast listening to. So that's how I compare this, because it's impossible to watch this film going in cold, obviously. And I don't think we should be judging this film by that standard. Like, does it, can it exist in a vacuum? Of course not. You can't expect it to.
You don't think so?
Absolutely not. In fact, the opening scene, I found myself pretty confused. I was like, what's going on? How did they get here? How did this happen?
Can I just raise one point real quick? Of all the Avenger movies, though, this is the third one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
correct.
This is by far the easiest one to get into if you don't have the backstory. And the reason I know that is because my wife hasn't seen hardly any of the Marvel movies, and she totally followed along with this, and she got most of it. So yeah, so that's how I would gauge it. Yeah.
Sarah's also incredibly smart, unlike myself.
Yes. She infers a lot, and she actually read all the comic books. So no,
because I'm gonna be like, is that the guy from Game of Thrones? Why is he so big?
Hey, that's a spoiler.
Yeah,
it's too early for spoilers.
I mean, they don't know what person I'm talking about. So we're not going spoilers yet. Let's talk our MVP of the film. We'll start back with there's so many characters here, but for you, who did you enjoy the most? Like, who is your MVP?
Is that to Aaron or to me?
No, sorry, Jeff.
Oh, to me. Well, like I was saying earlier, it's such. I mean, you talk about the greatest hits, kind of the album. There's so many characters. It's really hard to nail down just one. So I don't know. It's kind of like Aaron. It's like the Detroit Pistons team that won the championship. It was much more of a team effort, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, definitely. Unfortunately, the Lakers and their superstars got shut down by a better.
All right, you're really gonna compare this to the Pistons? So I guess who's your Chauncey Billups or Ben Wallace?
Who's your Tayshaun Prince?
But that's who it would have to be. It would have to be like, sure, Thor was good. I don't think there really was an MVP. I think there was MVP moments. There was moments for each for a number of characters. Yeah. You can make the argument for Thor or even like Stephen Strange,
so
Spider-Man.
You're not going to pick one.
I have moments that I like, but I can't give an MVP because I really don't think that there was one person that actually stood out because it was such an ensemble.
Yeah, I'll actually agree with that. I think that they made it a point to not give any one person too much to do. Now, I think they failed at that, but I think that was actually I think that was what they attempted to do. And I will say my personal MVP was actually a villain, a new villain we were introduced to. Ebony Maw was the guy that was kind of like
Squidward.
Exactly, Squidward.
You had to look up that name because I did too.
Oh, 100%. I think they mentioned it maybe once in the movie,
did
but
they? I don't think they did.
They probably didn't actually. But I thought like he was actually a really interesting villain and super powerful, maybe too powerful for his own good. But he was great. I really liked his persona, the way that they turned him basically into like a Sith Lord. I mean, he was kind of Sith bad guy if you think about it.
So I'm going to tell you right now, he was the scariest bad guy in the movie, not Thanos.
No, yeah, I agree with that. So Ebony Maw was my MVP.
Well, they at least gave him some sort of like he's talking about being like, you think this is suffering, but it's your salvation. They kind of gave him like the righteous, like the kind of.
He was the mouthpiece. He was the hype man.
Yeah.
He was
a really good hype man.
Yeah, that's what I loved about him. So it's a great performance by that.
So Aaron, you feel like they didn't succeed in terms of the balance of the thing. Because this is where I'm going to disagree with you and agree more with Jeff here. I am stunned at how well they did at parsing out like the time allotted, right? Like they got the 2 hours and 40-ish minutes, which is a long time.
Yes.
But I remember thinking going in, I'm like, there's going to be a handful of people that I'm going to walk out being like, I can't believe they shafted so-and-so. And I walked out trying to think of, okay, who did they shaft? And I couldn't actually think of anyone. There wasn't anyone in my mind that got the clear shaft.
Yeah, anyone that showed up, actually, they did do a really good job of balancing out. But I will say, at the end of the movie, I felt like I watched another Thor movie, which wasn't necessarily bad. I think Thor is the best character right now, and that's all thanks to
because of Ragnarok.
Exactly, and that's thanks to Ragnarok. They totally reinvented him, and I think he is the best Marvel character at the moment. And I'm glad that he really. I mean, maybe he just stood out for me, but I felt like this was another Thor movie. So
when thinking about this for me, there's obviously you can define MVP however you want. Some people define MVP as if you get a lot of triple doubles in a season. Okay?
It's the best way to define it.
Other people. Oh, and we got some hot takes coming in from the birthday girl here, Sarah Soffer Nelson, one of our big fans, one of our boiler room girls, as we refer to the podcast.
I'm just now looking at these comments.
She says Thor is hot. I hope her husband Greg does not listen to this podcast, and I'm sure he doesn't. But
I'm sure he'll be highly offended.
I mean,
yes.
Are we sure that her husband doesn't look like Thor, and so maybe she's feeling like?
Well, so this leads to honestly. Funny enough, her comment is a segue into my MVP. She talks about Thor being hot. Thor isn't my MVP, although Thor did play a more prominent role than I would have anticipated, considering we just saw Ragnarok. But Star-Lord was my MVP, mostly because I sat down and thought, okay, what moments did I enjoy the most? Now, if I'm judging my MVP as people who affected the movie for good, it wouldn't be Star-Lord, and I'm not going to get into spoilers, but he obviously makes a decision that's not great. But like, if I'm thinking of good bits, like the whole bit about all the Guardians,
that had to have been written as like 3 lines, 4 lines, and they just kind of kept going. And it was too good to
so
not.
Good. So Drax has that line. Yeah, like Star-Lord refers to the unconscious Thor as a dude, and Drax is like, that's not a dude. You're a dude. That's a man. And Rocket tells Star-Lord that he's one sandwich away from getting fat, or from being fat. And then it goes back to Drax, and he says, it's like a pirate and an angel had a baby. Like,
can I say the laughter in my theater? It popped so loud that I couldn't hear what the next line was.
Oh, I know. I had to do some research to get this. Do you think I remember? I did not remember this word for word. I wish. I had to do some research, my friend. And Star-Lord constantly one-upping. I guess we are getting into semi-spoiler territory here in terms of referencing scenes, though nothing plot point, not yet at least, although we're getting close. So if you're spoiler sensitive, stop listening to the 6 people currently watching. But you know what? The box office numbers are telling me everyone in the world saw it, so I think we're safe. But Star-Lord, the whole one-upping thing, it's not like this is like some fresh new comedic device. It's very, very tried and true, but it works so well. When Thor talks about having to kill his sister and how he didn't even know he had one and she was trapped in hell, and Star-Lord says, yeah, my father killed my mother, so I had to kill my father, which is harder than killing a sister. Plus, I came out with both of my eyes. Oh, my God. So it was really good. And then the whole, like, which master do you serve?
Oh, it's brilliant. My favorite line of the movie.
That got a huge laugh, the Star-Lord's response in my theater. And then in Star-Lord trying to sound like Thor in that same scene, like, you will not be our pod today, sir. Like, it was a good bit.
It was great.
It was a good bit. So he's my MVP because in a movie that has three of the Chris's, right? We got Hemsworth and Evans and Pratt, right? Rest in peace, Pine, who is stuck in the DC universe. But like, stuck somewhere of the fields of Germany. So I don't know where he is. But sorry, Wonder Woman spoilers. Whoops.
I thought that was a Star Trek spoiler. I was like, I'd never seen the movie.
Might as well be.
Or Finest Hours spoiler. That Disney film. Have you seen Finest Hours?
Oh no,
not Chris Pine's.
I can't believe you did.
Seen it twice?
No, I keep my no. I don't Finest Hours. You kidding me?
Casey Affleck's great.
This is one thing I will say, and this is kind of a downer on the movie, a little bit, is that everyone's quippy now. That used to be Iron Man's thing. I noticed that they turned down Stephen Strange's. He was a little bit more like, like his language he was using, the way he spoke. He wasn't nearly as quippy as he was in his standalone film, mostly because his character is too similar to Tony Stark. So they had to make him different. And I noticed that it felt, like they really made a concerted effort there. But Iron Man's quippy, Spider-Man is quippy, Star-Lord is quippy. Like there's only so much
Rocket's
joke
quippy.
to go around. Rocket is yes, absolutely.
General?
Oh yeah. So for Star-Lord to still kind of, I feel like he stuck out just barely above the rest as like I'm still king of the funny land, right? Like that's my role. So that's why he's my MVP.
I would say he's the captain of the funny ship.
Very good. Very, very good. So anyway, we are going to get into spoilers full on now because we're going to talk about what worked, what didn't work. If you're listening and you have not seen Avengers Infinity War, please keep listening regardless. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right.
It's better.
I was going to say stop listening, but you know what?
The movie's better if it's spoiled. So I'll just tell you that
now. It really is. Because the reason why this film doesn't even breach the 85 score for me is because the ending is an abomination. We will get to that on the things that don't work. The ending is a disingenuous catastrophe. We're going to get to this, but let's start positive because overall this is a fresh movie for the three of us. But Mr. Score number 90, what worked best for you in this film?
Someone else go. I've started the last couple. I'm really curious to hear what
you're going to cede control.
73.
Wow.
Okay. 80. Yeah.
Wow. I was trying to give you your Star-Lord moment, but all right, Thor, take it away.
No, I'll play lead blocker. I'll be the fullback. I'll make some room for Jeff behind me. So what worked for me is just the balancing act. So we talked about this earlier. 70-something characters, 2 hours and 40 minutes of screen time. And the directors and screenplay writers did the best possible job of balancing this out and making it interesting without making it too overwrought, too verbose. There's so many different angles you can go down. I don't feel like it was overly cheesy. I mean, there's some cheese element. It's a comic book movie after all. There's some heartfelt moments. Thanos, they actually developed, and I think the longer runtime actually allowed them to give Thanos a little more room to breathe, his backstory. We learned a lot about him, and we learned that he isn't necessarily just motivated by power. He's motivated by some other things, namely a balance, which doesn't necessarily make him a bad guy as much as it makes him an authoritarian. So we get... And I think that's a pretty interesting avenue to travel down for a bad guy, which is totally different than, say, someone like the Red Skull or Dr. Octopus or whoever, the other villains are, Vulture or whatever. So I think that's what really worked for me was this longer runtime gave the movie a little bit more room to, a little more, like a more runway, basically, to go down. The story felt like it could breathe a little more. And I thought like the use of the characters felt authentic for the universe. I don't feel like anyone got the shaft like we talked about a little bit earlier. And I think they just did justice to everyone that was involved, excluding Hawkeye and Ant-Man. I actually really like.
Who might have been in there?
Very possibly could have. I recently saw Ant-Man for the first time about 2 weeks ago, and I really enjoyed it. So I was disappointed that he wasn't there.
Well, Ant-Man, when it came out, to be fair, was under the cloud of like this was supposed to be an Edgar Wright movie, which is one of our favorite directors we talk about all the time. And so it was impossible to enjoy the film, even for what it was, just because we knew it could have been so much better. But as the dust has settled and time has gone on and people have forgotten that, it's kind of an underrated little gem. It's a good movie.
They kept a little bit of his script, right?
Apparently they did, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Well, look. So we're going to be getting two more Marvel films before we get the next Avengers film that comes out in a year. We're going to be getting the Ant-Man and the Wasp, and then we're going to be getting Captain Marvel. We'll be talking about that as well. And then we get part 2, or they're not calling it part 2, they're calling it something, but it's very much a part 2.
It's part 2. Yeah.
For the Harry Potter fans, this is very much the Deathly Hallows Part 1. It's hard to. This movie doesn't really have an arc or narrative without a second part. It just doesn't. But I'm here to talk about what worked for me. For me, this was one of the funniest of the MCU films. I wouldn't say the funniest. I think the Guardians films are better. I love Iron Man 1. But like this was funnier than Age of Ultron for sure. And I would say even funnier than the first Avengers, which I thought was pretty funny. But there were a lot of great moments. I mean, even towards the beginning when Tony Stark is trying to get Bruce Banner to, have the Hulk come out. And then he's like, dude, you're embarrassing me in front of the wizards.
That
great line.
That killed me.
Great line. And then, and And when he tells, when Doctor Strange and what's his Doctor Strange's friend named Wong?
Wong, yeah.
When they tell him that they swore an oath to protect the Infinity Stone, which is why they can't just throw it in a garbage disposal, blend it. Which, by the way, bad. Now that I think about it, pretty bad excuse when you're trying to stop potentially the most powerful person on the planet. Maybe break the oath. But we'll get into that.
It's an oath.
I guess so. Which is funny because I'm like Tony, because Tony responded, I swore an oath. I swore off dairy until Ben and Jerry's named flavor after me, which is another great line and a great commercial plug.
Yeah.
And so the humor is a big part. I already also talked about the balancing act. I was really, really surprised how well they did. And I mean, they gave the right amount of time to the right things. Now, I will say I was confused sometimes, like most of Thor's thing. I was pretty confused. I'm like, what are they doing? And again, why is Peter Dinklage so big? And why is Peter Dinklage once again stunt casted into something that this guy deserves his own movie? And like, I was a little bit confused what was going on there, to be totally honest. But maybe that's just like one of those, like, I need a second viewing. Other people have told me like, oh no, it was really clear to me. It's like, yeah, he's there to do a weapon, but why there? And I was a little bit confused. This had a lot more Guardians of the Galaxy people than I expected. And I'm really grateful for that. I mean, there's some of the best things going. Now, what worked for me also was some of the character intros. Some worked and some didn't. And I want to go through and I want to hear which ones worked and didn't for you guys. Right at the beginning, we get Loki and Thor. And then we get the intro for Hulk, the "We have a Hulk" moment. Okay. Wasn't terribly strong, is what it is. Hulk has had many beat drop moments for himself. Doctor Strange's intro was just him and Wong talking about going to the deli. Not strong. Tony Stark's intro was him jogging with Pepper Potts in Central Park in New York City, which isn't going to happen when you are a mega celebrity, superhero of the world, billionaire arms dealer. You're just going to go for a casual jog, and people are just going to walk by you and be like, and pretend like he's not someone who saved the world like multiple times and not grab selfies.
Or at least have the hoodie up.
Oh, well, look, Doctor Strange comes in a portal. People are sitting in New York just being like, ugh, another day in the city. like, come on. So not super great. Now, Spider-Man. I love the cutaway to Spider-Man's arm, the Spidey sense. Great intro, great action. Everything with Spider-Man in this movie was excellent. Like, I thought it was from beginning to end, the bitter end, was very good with Spider-Man. The intro for Guardians of the Galaxy, you just hear the song starting to play, and it's a Guardians of the Galaxy type of thing, and it's Rubber Band Man by the Spinners. I had to look that up, by the way. I'm not that good. And Peter Quill singing, pretty good. But for me, the best of the intros goes to Captain America, and
yes,
it wasn't even like, if you would have described the moment to me, it wouldn't have sounded that cool. But for whatever reason, like right at that time, I didn't expect it. I should have. I should have definitely expected
the trailer, right?
Well, in the trailer, you see him step out from the shadows, but I didn't really realize, in that moment, because you see him, a figure standing behind this subway train that keeps going, and they've got Scarlet Witch and Vision cornered. Also, rest in peace to Scarlet Witch's Russian accent. She's gone. Elizabeth Olsen's just dropped the Wanda Romanoff accent and is just speaking full, just American accent, which is way better. I'm a fan of people being okay just getting rid of accents and not explaining. I think it's great. Maybe she's adapted well. I don't know. But anyway, they look up. You see this kind of shadowy figure, and then they throw the trident thing that your staff or spear, and he catches it. And I don't know, there's something just bad A about it. And I loved it. I thought Captain America's intro was great. Yeah. Would have loved to see him with a shield, though.
Can you guys explain to me? Because I'm not really like the historian like you guys. What happened to his shield? I don't remember.
The shield was broken.
Mm-hmm. In Civil War.
In Civil War. Okay, who broke it?
Tony
broke it. Okay, wasn't
they had that moment like that? They were like, right?
Yeah, it was.
I'm trying. Don't remember that at all.
Yeah, you talk about like we're the historians, but we clearly both were very unsure.
It was the thing where it
was like a lot of power
and they blew up.
But isn't his shield like indestructible? Isn't it made of the Wakanda juice or whatever?
No. Okay, so what happened? He actually I don't think that the shield actually dropped, or I don't think it actually got broken. I think didn't he just drop it and walked away from
He
being
lost the
Captain
shield.
America?
Oh, that's rough.
And that's thus the beard, because he's no longer in.
It's a good look for him. That's
know.
a strong look for Captain America.
If we're talking pros, I'd say that beard is a pro.
That's the MVP.
Beard is it. Beard is of the
MVP.
things that worked for me. The beard worked.
Yeah. Oh, the beard worked.
The beard worked. Absolutely.
It's no Superman mustache, but it works.
No, and I wouldn't mind. He doesn't even have to have that beard forever. They could just CGI the beard on because we know that works.
God.
Yeah, so those I didn't even think about the intros. That's actually that was the best intro. Good call on that one.
I think it was.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the other one I didn't mention was Black Panther. Now, this intro got the loudest reaction in my theater, but that's because I had the country of Wakanda behind me.
Wakanda
but
forever.
I mean, these 3 rows of preteens and likely teens in their Wakanda shirts, all in just, again, everything was in unison. It was kind of weird, kind of creepy. Really uncomfortable. These are people who probably don't know.
Maybe they're actually from Wakanda.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so as soon as they say they need a guy to help with vision, be able to remove the stone from his forehead, he goes, "I know someone." And then you see you hear the music, the Wakanda music, and you see the Black Panther statue, and they go berserk behind. They're just going nuts. They're loving it. Like, oh, Wakanda forever, Wakanda forever. So
I
honestly,
saw like a meme
film,
somewhere
like,
of that actor doing it, and somebody saying like, "You got to imagine how many times this guy has had to do this since the movie, the first movie."
I'm gonna talk a little bit about the end, which we'll talk more in depth a little bit later on. But when we had some people going to Ash, I turned around being like, "Come on, any of you gonna turn to Ash? Come on."
You're hoping.
Come on. No? Okay. You guys are going to stick around? Okay. Dang it. They were talking throughout most of the movie, too. It's kind of annoying. But anyway. So, Jeff, let's talk about more things that worked.
Well, I mean, just to piggyback on both of your things that worked, I agree the balance worked. And not necessarily, giving everybody the equal amount of screen time. But I think everybody had a line or a moment in the movie that you were like, "Oh yeah, no, he was in there or she was in there because this happened or that happened." And when you were talking about intros, David, I thought the intros were good, but I think that the greatest hits album really worked well when you're just like, "Oh my gosh, the Rolling Stones just met the Beatles." Like Captain America just met Black Panther. What world are we living in? This is amazing. I thought those worked really well, and this might be a good segue into what didn't work for you guys. But I love the ending. I thought it was wonderful. I thought it was shocking. Shocking.
Well, I think you're going to be in for a shock with part 2 then.
Hold on.
Let's be honest.
Hold on.
There's no way you guys expected him to have all of the rings and for spoilers, just get off if you haven't seen it. For half of the characters to go, and not just like any half. Like they weren't just getting rid of like the Ant-Mans and these B-level. Oh no, it was this guy's side assistant guy. We can't lose him. Like we lost Loki, and we're just like, oh well, I mean, like Loki had his moments or whatever, but you lost Black Panther. You lost Spider-Man. When I was watching the movie,
lost them till what? Till part 2 for a year, right?
The moment where Spider-Man is saying goodbye to Tony, and he's saying, Mr. Stark, and he's just like holding him. I couldn't help but think of my son and how if he saw this movie at like age 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I'd be consoling a crying like, what does death mean, Father? Why did the bad man kill Spider-Man?
I have a fix for your problem. I'm getting on Amazon right now, and I'm sending you something. It's a 2-day ship, so you're gonna 2 days. It's called a time stone. So this way you'll never have to worry about your son. If anything bad happens to him, you can turn this thing You go back.
You know
in
what,
time
David?
and-
You're not a dad because I can't be like, oh, son, this is just movie magic to get your money. You got to wait a year, and then he's going to come back and he's going to be fine. Plus, that guy's not even Spider-Man. He's an actor.
This is
Get
the
over your
problem.
shit.
Look, this is the problem with introducing time travel in any film or any franchise. And they did this in Harry Potter. Obviously, in films like Back to the Future, where like it's, I mean, obviously 2 doesn't exactly hold up under scrutiny in terms of like the logic of time travel. But like that's something about Back to the Future. It's the kind of the purpose of the film, and you're able to suspend disbelief. But I knew this was going to be a problem for me with Doctor Strange, even though I loved the movie. But putting him in this Avengers film, I could always think like, well, no matter what happens, this can all be undone.
I remember you said this when you were breaking down the original Doctor Strange movie.
Yeah.
You're just like, we've introduced time travel, so we know that no matter what happens, we can always go back.
When these people are so just to be, I made a list here. I think there are 3 people that died for sure, for good, and well, maybe 2, and then one maybe. And those that's Loki, and that's the maybe, just because Loki's full. He's full of tricks. He's got a bag of tricks.
This genius guy.
Do you think Loki's dead?
Yeah,
I think
it was an emotional moment. I would like him to stay dead because it served some purpose. Gamora is definitely dead because they really hit on that one, and you can see how much time they spent on it to give some sort of emotional depth to Thanos. But like, I think she's really dead. Heimdall is dead. And
who?
Heimdall, played by Idris Elba.
Oh,
the guy who
Elba, yeah.
the Bifrost.
Yeah.
You know?
The guy who shot out Rainbow Road for Hulk.
Yeah.
He put Hulk on the Rainbow Road. That was great.
I think those are the only legitimate deaths are those 3 because they served a purpose. Now, I'm going to read you the rest of the people that died in this film. Oh, I'm going to add one more. Vision. And it's a maybe, but Vision didn't turn to ash, right? He got the whole stone pulled. Now, there's a chance that they Wakanda tech him up, and he's okay. And they kind of alluded to it because they explained a lot about that. So I have a feeling he's probably coming back. Mm-hmm. But the rest of these fell to ash. And correct me if I'm missing anyone. I used the internet, which is almost always right, to get this list. And it is Falcon, Groot, Mantis, Bucky Barnes, Scarlet Witch, Drax, Groot, Star-Lord, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, and then in the end credits, Nick Fury and Maria Hill. Those are all the people that got ashed. So the people.
My heart.
What's that?
My heart.
Oh, yes, I'm gonna write that. And Presnall's heart turned ash.
Shout out to Johnny. It's my brother's best friend. But he had a pretty funny post. He said, "Wow, I didn't see that twist in the Avengers coming. Turns out I died."
That would be a heck of a 4DX experience, guys. When you turn down so here's the thing. I would love to believe that the MCU has the guts, the stones even, to have major characters like this. People that they just made their first movies of. Spider-Man with Tom Holland, who is a great Spider-Man, by the way. But I'm way too cynical to believe that Hollywood is going to break box office records with King T'Challa, only to have him turn to ash and never come back. Like, yeah, right. The question is for the next film is, do they all come back, or do just most of them come back? The fact that we know that there's a time stone, we know time travel is a thing here, and the fact that like mostly they just turned to ash kind of unceremoniously. Some of them, others it took a little bit longer, but like.
But that was the shock value. It's just like they're gone. They're gone.
No, the shock. Like the don't get me wrong. My Wakanda friends behind me were freaking out at each one more than the last. As soon as they're like, no,
yeah.
like not Groot, no Spider-Man. They're like freaking. Yeah. They're freaking out. And I just want to turn and be like, it's not real. 1, because it's a movie, and 2, it's not real because they're all going to be in the next movie because there's a time stone. They're coming back. Like,
see, but I can't explain that to little Owen.
Yeah, to Jeff's point, actually, I posted on something that I was watching the movie, and my sister-in-law, she manages a GameStop, and kids are in there all the time. And one kid was dressed as Spider-Man, and she asked him if he saw Avengers, and the kid started crying. So.
And I think that's what gets lost. Yeah. I mean, David, we can always go a little postmodern, like what they don't have the guts to do this, and they had the guts to end the movie like that.
Sure,
that's insane. Like, and it's a Disney movie. Like, do you guys remember the time of like everything has to have like a little bow on it.
Except for Old Yeller.
I think that was the thing with Rogue One. Was I can't believe they're going to kill everybody off. Like, sure, it's a standalone movie, but I mean, it's Disney. They always kind of want to like be like, well, we could make a sequel if this makes a little bit of money. And
wish they would have done that with the Solo movie.
I just think that I think that there should be legitimate props to Disney who made the Avengers that they actually like killed off Spider-Man.
Is there any part of you that believes they stay dead?
No.
Okay. Would you prefer?
No, I literally had like the credits came down. My friend goes, Black Panther 2 is coming out. I think they're doing another Guardians.
Imagine if they did. This is going to sound terrible, and which means I probably shouldn't say it. But they did this once with Don Cheadle before.
Recap.
But it's
what if they bring back the original War Machine? What's the dude's name? Hustle and Flow.
Yeah, Terrence, dude.
Terrence,
they did Terrence Howard bad. Oh, yeah. And you know what? None of us cared because Don Cheadle's amazing.
Way better.
And we love
it. Way better.
And it's like, I don't even care because Don Cheadle's an upgrade. I love it. So look, they've done it before. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. I guess I really have a hard time buying into like the emotional value of a narrative is when they're doing something that I know is going to be undone. That when I know for a fact it's not sticking, I see them just like, it makes me feel uncomfortable because you're doing something that's supposed to have this shock value tied to it that I can't fully buy into. I wish I could just be like, this is crazy, but it's not crazy because it's not going to happen. And so it's almost kind of like, why do we go through this at all when we know it's not going to happen? And that was honestly my biggest gripe with the film. And a film I otherwise really enjoyed throughout, that was my big gripe was like, oh, congratulations. Speaking of stone,
I don't know, David. I think you're being a little overcritical. Like, what other movie does that?
Stone, right? Those are the stones.
What other movie ends like that? I think you made a little critical. Like, what other movie like has the guts to do that?
The kids on the boat.
White Squall.
Which one?
White Squall with Jeff Bridges. The kids on a sailboat, and they get out into like a pretty bad, big storm, and they all die. It's a Disney movie, I think.
Was that a Disney movie?
It's an obscure pull. I'm pretty sure it's Disney. It's White Squall. Made me cry as a kid. You know what?
It's got to be if it's making Aaron laugh this hard.
Oh, White Squall. That's a real good pull. That's a quality pull right there.
You like that? Well, look. You know why? It's because White Squall is based on real events, and there's no time stone in White Squall, my friend. Those kids are at the bottom of that sea. That's where they remain.
So I was talking to one of my friends he's a huge comic book nerd. He actually reads these comic books, and he brought up a good point. So I had the same criticism that David had, that the weight of killing off these characters is just, I mean, it's really, there's nothing to it because they're going to come back. And he brought up the point that Marvel has the out that in the comic books they kill the characters all the time and they come back. So it's like, it's kind of, they've already laid the blueprint of bringing these characters back even though they die. So I mean, they already have that out. So it does take some guts to kill them, but everyone knows that they have the reset button because it's always been that way. So I had the idea of what if they recast them, like you said earlier. What if they recast every character that died and just restart the story again?
What if they just come back as the kids from Stranger Things?
Yes, I'm down for that.
So one other thing on this thread, a little bit different but similar, is like Scarlet Witch is a little too powerful, but there was some self-awareness in the film. You know, there's a moment where she drops down, pulls this move that's like, oh, that would have been useful, you know. And literally, you know, the Wakanda warrior is just like, what was she doing up there the whole time? You know, and so they reference that's like, they know, you know, it's like, they know. Like, honestly, the power of Vision, even, I mean, Vision's had this problem of being too powerful because he's not even human, right? Now, him having a stone that Thanos wants makes it's easier to kind of sideline him and it's easy to actually take him out of the fight because they're trying to get the stone out, which I thought was clever. But still, between Scarlet Witch and Doctor Strange, it's hard for me to ever believe that they're really in trouble. But that's the suspension of disbelief required. I still enjoyed the film a heck of a lot, but like, you just have to realize that the Avengers have the most powerful. I mean, no one can be more powerful than that group of people.
Right.
Well, then, even Thanos.
Exactly, Thanos with all the jewels and all the stones. So we also saw. We were proven that it was proven that Thor is actually immortal. So we kind of always assumed that he was, but we know for a fact now that he cannot die. Because when he goes to visit the giant dwarf, the dwarf says, "This is going to kill you if you get hit by this the power of a star."
Isn't that information that Loki maybe could have known in the beginning of the film during the interrogation, where he's like, "Tell me the stuff,"
exactly.
Exactly.
So this is that was the theory. We know for sure.
He can live in space too.
No, I think he can just live. Like, he can take any amount of punishment. He's literally an immortal god.
He is a god.
So yeah,
he's a god.
Yeah. So you can't kill him. So yeah.
But this is the thing. I'm gonna go off my one other last thing on my list of things that I didn't like. You can't kill a god, but you can take his eye away until you give him a new eye back. I loved the eye patch. It was a reminder of what he had been through Ragnarok, which was a great film. It reminded me, like, oh yeah, this is a post Ragnarok Thor we're getting. Look, he got into a pretty serious fight with his sister. She took one of his eyeballs, and the thing kind of works. It's awesome until Rocket is like, hey, unbelievably, I have this eyeball that's your exact eye color. And
I think it was actually a different color. It was a different color. I watched, but yeah, I was watching.
Did you? Yeah. Okay. So, but he hands it to him and just taps it a couple times and it's working.
Exactly.
And I'm like, oh, you had to undo a great thing Taika did? Like, that was so unnecessary.
Yeah, I didn't understand that move whatsoever.
Was he having problems seeing with the one eye and he needed the extra eye?
He doesn't need any eyes.
Or was it just like, oh, I see you have an eye patch and I have a way to fix that?
Yeah. I think he's just being a helpful rabbit.
Mm-hmm. The rabbit stuff was brilliant. It was really funny.
That's a bit that'll never get old through any of the movies, is the various things that people refer to Rocket as. A trash panda, rabbit. I mean, it's great.
I think the funniest part for me was when it was Thor was just like, yes, look at my tree friend here. And he goes, I am Groot. And Captain America goes, I am Steve Rogers.
Huge reaction to that one. Big laughs in my theater.
Oh, so good.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But that was my favorite, was when you got to see like the different people first meet and their interactions.
Yeah, and we got to see Teenage Groot, which was a very good bit. Teenage Groot, moody,
always playing the video game. Always playing video games.
Oh, it's a really good bit, and hopefully voiced by Vin.
It was confirmed.
Dom Toretto himself.
Yeah.
Good.
Does Rocket sound anything like Bradley Cooper?
I think so. Yeah, it's like Bradley Cooper doing like a New York accent.
Yeah.
It's a bad New York accent at that.
Yeah, it is bad. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I can't tell it's him. Like, honestly. Like.
Well, I can tell it's him. I can tell it's him, but I definitely think it's some of his best acting work. Maybe his very best acting work.
Really?
I'm serious. No, I really do. I think it's awesome. I mean, like.
Since Wedding Crashers, for sure.
And I realize maybe he doesn't control the timing, but his delivery, the timing, everything, I think it's his best stuff.
I mean, like, it's kind of strange, like, seeing him in this and not thinking, like, well, what's his other comedy role that he's been in?
Bradley Cooper. Did you ever see the he takes the pill that makes him super smart and capable?
Yeah, the brain something.
Is that a comedy?
I thought it was pretty funny. It was terrible.
It was really
bad. American
but we
Hustle
could totally do a TV show on CBS with the same name.
Wedding Crashers.
Yeah, Wedding Crashers.
Yeah, he was the villain though. He didn't have he had funny parts.
He had some pretty funny lines for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when he what is he? Sack Vin, whatever his name is.
Oh yeah,
Vaughn.
Vince Vaughn. There it is. That's it.
Vaughn.
I had Vin Diesel on the brain. Sorry.
So Batista, by the way, some of his best work since WrestleMania 10.
Actually, he showed up. His first appearance was WrestleMania 25. So I don't know that.
I would love if Jeff would.
Jeff would know. Jeff would actually know that.
I actually do know that.
Are you a wrestling head?
Batista's last match.
Oh my, I love it.
Yeah, no, he wrestled in WrestleMania 30 and tapped out to Daniel Bryan.
I know I've probably told this story on the pod before, but maybe it's worth retelling. If it's not,
sure.
Stop me mid-story. But
okay.
Batista himself caused my cab driver in London, this is about 4 years ago. I was, on my way somewhere, something for work. And my cab driver, who happens to be a big wrestling fan and a big Batista fan, sees a crowd of people and this, gigantic figure walking down the sidewalk. And he's like, Batista, Batista, Batista. And he pulls the car over and jumps out to join the throngs of people to get a selfie or an autograph. I'm waiting for him. I have to sit there, and I waited. From that day forth, I did Uber and Lyft from then on, because that was like, in London, black.
Because you never know where Batista's going to show up.
Oh, you really never know. But he comes in and he's so thrilled. I mean, it took about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. He got an autograph from Batista, and he comes in. He's like, "That's Batista." And this is pre Guardians 1, I believe. So, I had no idea who Batista was. And the guy's trying to explain to me about how he's a pro wrestler, and that I was even more so like, I can't believe this is happening right now. But I'm not nearly rich enough to be upset. So,
I only know Batista from Blade Runner 2049, so I don't know any of his other work.
Oh, great!
He was in the most recent Bond movie.
Oh yeah,
haven't seen it.
That's right. He doesn't say a word. He just fights.
Yep, just fights. Just chokes people out.
Speaking of just fights, or maybe not fighting at all, another piece of stunt casting here, if you can call it that. Benicio del Toro as the Bone Collector. Could look. I mean, I would never, ever speak ill of the great Benicio del Toro, who I am a big fan of. But was this the right role for him?
I'm still not convinced that his role is different than from the Last Jedi.
Oh no, it's the same thing, just different hair.
Well, I think this is actually his most embarrassing role since Sicario 2. So
it felt like he was wearing clown makeup and a wig. Like it was. I'm looking at Benicio, and I was like, man, this man's won an Oscar for Traffic in 2002. We put some respect on that name. You know what I'm saying? Like, give him some real material here. What are we doing, Bone Collector?
No.
Like, put Paul Bettany in that role. We don't need Paul. Anyway, sorry go on that tangent. I just like Benicio.
I respect Benicio. And you know what's funny is, can I just say who's the least MVP for me in this?
Please.
In any Avengers movie? It's Anthony Mackie as the Falcon. He's terrible. He is a terrible hero. I do not like him whatsoever.
Yeah.
He's redundant too. Like, he's literally the same thing as War Machine. What's the difference? They have the exact same power.
Yeah.
So
seriously. Poor guy.
Pack? It's a different flying mechanism. Like, one's Iron Man and one's like.
Well, yeah.
Special ops.
So there you go. He's actually redundant with Iron Man and War Machine.
Well, I'll tell you, in my theater, the gasps when people were turning to ash, especially for Spider-Man, Star-Lord, Drax, each one was just like, and then Falcon went, and people were like, oh, okay. Yeah. Like, oh yeah, he's in this. Notice I didn't even have his intro as one of the ones listed, just because it's always with Captain America. He just comes flying in.
He's a sidekick. And, he is a sidekick.
Yeah, poor guy.
I think I needed more Bucky Barnes in my life.
Bucky was barely. I miss brainwashed Bucky, by the way. That dude was efficient.
I had heard a really good rumor that inevitably, when they finally do a what's Scarlett Jo's character's name? Black Widow. Eventually, when they do a Black Widow movie, it's like going to be her story, and then she would eventually fight the Winter Soldier in the brainwashed Bucky role.
From Back in Time?
Back in Time, like kind of do it her origin story.
That's kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be cool if she killed him.
Which also has something to do with the two Marvel movies going on before the next Infinity War show up, which is Captain Marvel and Ant-Man. I had heard that Ant-Man is going to be a little bit in the past, kind of telling why he wasn't there. And then Captain Marvel, David, you alluded to, is going to be set in the 90s.
So let's begin to wrap up and have a conversation about Captain Marvel, the end credit sequence, and our just final parting thoughts. Before I do that, though, was there anything else you guys wanted to go over, or things that didn't work for you?
Yeah, I didn't care for Bucky. I thought he was much better in I, Tonya as Jeff Galooly. Tanya Harding's husband.
The great Galooly. Galooly.
No, everything else worked just fine.
You brought up Brolin as Thanos, and I agree. Like, I really liked Thanos as a character, but I think that has more to do with the writing rather than the acting and the portrayal. Yeah, I mean, the performance. I mean, everyone kind of talks about like the chin and the different scars and everything like that, but I mean, was there anything in that performance that someone else couldn't have done, or you thought that he could stand alone better?
That's an interesting question because I came in with the take, and I'm not prepared to defend it. That it was one of the better mocap performances, certainly by like an A-lister or A-minus lister, however, wherever we put Brolin. I mean, like,
he's getting A-list roles.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, Cable too, and Deadpool.
In the same summer.
And he was great in No Country for Old Men. I'm a big Brolin fan, but I felt like
great in Goonies.
Usually when you have people like that,
W.
Oh yeah, great George W. Oh my gosh, Aaron still hasn't seen that film. It's a
Refuse.
very hard one.
I'm waiting for HW is the movie I want to see.
Just the last 5 years of his life is what I wanted to cover.
I just wanted it's a 2-hour movie of him telling the joke that he does before he pinches
photo ops.
The ladies. Just photo ops. Yeah. His David Copperfield
I see that
joke is hilarious.
Oh my gosh, I see that movie tonight. Anyway, you're killing me. Anyway, I would say usually when we have these non-Andy Serkis like A-listers in mocap roles, it's hard for me to not think about the actor that's performing it because it's someone so recognizable. In the case of Brolin, I don't know if it was the technology or his performance, maybe a little bit of both, but I felt like he really got into the role, and I felt like, oh yeah, I'm glad Brolin did this. Like, I didn't want anyone else to. I thought he did pretty good. But when you phrase it, the question, Jeff, like that way, like what was something that someone else couldn't have done? And I immediately think like, what about the cop brother from Breaking Bad? Like if you were in that role, that probably
definitely has the chin for it.
Yeah, I don't know why I went to him first.
Well, because you just saw him in Beirut.
No, I think that's actually really good casting. Sure. But I think with probably like that kind of movie, you would need somebody at least of, some sort of name.
Yeah. So
to play the role. But yeah, go ahead, Eric.
I was gonna say, anything from Guardians? Did we see who is that? Oh man, there's a guy. I'm trying to think of if there's anyone from Guardians, like the main from the movies.
Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, Stallone. Okay, so we didn't see Stallone in this. And isn't there one other character from Guardians? He's like a hooded guy. I can't think of his name.
Well, Michael Rooker died in Guardians 2.
That's true. Yeah, I'm thinking.
Because people die.
Yeah, that's true. He's not coming back.
No, yeah, there's no time set. Yeah, Doctor Strange is like, meh.
All of a sudden, the coffin comes back in.
All that celebration for not. Sorry, what was the question?
No question. Guardians. I was just thinking, like, is there anyone we missed from Guardians? Really?
I don't know. But Gamora's not coming back, right?
Gamora's done. She's totally done.
If they bring her,
they got a time stone. One thing we didn't bring up is that we talked about the people who died, the people who lived.
Yes,
they're the originals.
So here are the people that lived. Here's the list.
Yeah.
Thor, Captain America, Iron Man, War Machine. Surprisingly, honestly, I'm really surprised. Black Widow, Nebula.
Weird.
Rocket and Nebula are the only two from the Guardians that survived, and then Bruce Banner.
Yeah. So everyone from the original Avengers.
Yeah.
Which when you're going into the movie, everyone's like, "Oh, I wonder like which of these old people are going to like get taken away, and we're just going to focus on like Stephen Strange and Spider-Man."
What if in a cost-cutting measure? Hear me out, guys. What if in a cost-cutting measure, this next film is just them doing the time stone without original cast to the first Avengers movie, and they make us watch it again?
I'm into that. I would watch it again.
I like that movie. I'd do it again.
I would buy a ticket.
As long as they don't
Yeah,
go
but
back
then
to Thor: Dark World, I'm good.
Like, by that logic, you would have to watch Age of Ultron again as well.
Oh, I don't want to watch Age of Ultron again.
Passing
I
on
honestly
that
didn't
one.
like Age of Ultron very much. There are very few misses in the Marvel Universe films. Like, it's incredible the success rate that they've had. I've really enjoyed almost all of them except Thor: Dark World, Iron Man 3, and Age of Ultron. Those are really the only three I didn't enjoy. But I know Aaron's list is longer than that. But
Well, my list is shorter than that.
which one? What is it?
The first Captain America and the first Thor.
Wow. Okay. See, I like both those films. But anyway, I forgot what train of thought I was going on. But
And the Ed Norton Hulk.
Hey, the Ed Norton Hulk is good. The Ed Norton Hulk is
Come
good.
on. It was so forgettable. Come on, guys.
we agree. Best Hulk is Eric Bana Hulk.
Oh yeah, best
Bana.
Hulk.
So we have this end credits scene that they made us sit through the entire thing for. By the way,
Yes.
they'd gotten this habit of doing it midway through, giving us a little bit of a break, and then a little bit, and then one more stinger, like a more meaningless one for those that really want to stay. No, they made us wait the whole time.
Mhm.
And you've got Nick Fury. We don't know what he's been doing since he has been. I mean, he's like Tom Cruise in Rogue Nation, right? Where like the IMF turns on him, right? Like that's essentially since Shield turned, he's been running, doing who knows what. But Maria Hill starts turning to ash. He starts turning to ash, and he gets this transponder. He can send one message.
Yes. Well, he called Red Alert. Yeah.
Yes, Red Alert. And that one Red Alert message he sends is to Brie Larson in Captain Marvel, which is one of the two films that Jeff mentioned is that we're getting before this part 2 of Infinity War. Those two films being Ant-Man and the Wasp, which I'm looking for an explanation of why they just didn't care about Thanos. It's probably going to take place pre Infinity War, my guess. And then we're going to get
Hawkeye's there.
What's that?
Maybe Hawkeye's in the movie.
Oh, that'd be awesome. And then Captain Marvel, I'm told, is a film that takes place in the 1990s.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely pre, Ultron. I imagine Captain Marvel will just like Captain America did, will have a post-credit stinger that shows present day, and it'll connect it to that, getting that message, and then it'll do the thing that's like Captain Marvel will return in Infinity War Part 2 or whatever, and everyone's gonna go ballistic, and it's gonna be cool. Guys, I have a confession. I don't know anything about Captain Marvel.
Nobody does.
Nobody does.
Mm-mm. So I just thought of the character, by the way. It came to me from Guardians. Ronan is Lee Pace. Did we see Did we see Ronan in?
Didn't Ronan die?
Yeah.
Did he die?
Did he?
I don't remember.
Yeah, he was the villain.
Yeah.
It's classic.
Yeah, he dies in the first one.
Oh, okay.
Killed the villain. Killed the villain. Next movie.
I'm telling you, I don't remember these things. He just stood out to me as someone interesting, so I don't remember.
I think Aaron only saw
He
the
was a
trailer.
good villain, but yeah, he's dead.
Okay. I didn't remember how Thor lost his hammer, so.
I know. Also, I don't love the new hammer. But whatever.
No.
Maybe it's because it's a tree branch for a handle. Anyway, Captain Marvel, who I don't know anything about. Had you told me about before I knew Brie Larson was cast, I thought it was Stan Lee was Captain Marvel. Like I just thought that was, I didn't know that was like a superhero named after the company, which seems a little on the nose.
It sounded like Deadpool referring to himself.
Yeah. What is the special power of Captain Marvel?
I don't know, but I think
Captain Marvel read Marvel comics really fast.
Yeah, I think it actually has to do with the suit. So it's a superpower suit where you get all this really cool stuff.
So that'll be a first in this universe. We don't have any superpowered suits.
Nope, very first time. But this is actually not a science-y superpower suit. This is a alien technology superpower suit. So yeah,
okay.
Which is
Can
again
we
totally
talk about
different.
how we've been talking for like an hour and haven't brought up Iron Man, Tony Stark at all?
Oh, sure we have.
I'm done with Tony Stark. He's old news.
His Ben and Jerry's joke, which landed really great. Him being able to run anonymously in Central Park with Pepper Potts, amazing.
I'd rather talk about Pepper. I mean, she's.
Oh yeah. Honestly, if anything,
she didn't want him to go.
We need more Pepper.
Mm-hmm. More Pepper, less.
She got
Tony.
in her moment. She didn't want him to be
Yeah,
Iron
she's
Man.
got a company to run, right? I mean, for all we know, she's selling the arms to Thanos and his crew.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
smart business woman. She is.
I mean, there's money to be made. Well, overall, guys, I'll say I am looking forward to the next portion of this, and I'm even though I know all of the things that were quote unquote shocking are going to be undone, it will be interesting to see how they undo it and which ways they do it. In the meantime, I really am looking forward to Ant-Man and the Wasp. Amazingly, definitely Captain Marvel. Big Brie Larson fan. Hashtag Sacramento proud. Born and raised here. Yeah, any last parting thoughts from you guys on this film? Any other?
Well, my question on the Captain Marvel is the villain Casey Affleck. Is that her arch nemesis?
Oh my gosh! Okay, I thought you were serious. I was gonna look it up. I was like, oh, is he doing the villain role? I realized, he's doing the villain role in real life.
In real life, yeah.
Oh gosh,
that's tough coming from the two biggest Casey Affleck fans.
I know.
Look, it's not easy. It's not easy. But he's just so talented.
Yeah.
Go see The Finest Hours.
You got
my
podcast.
second mention, The Finest Hours.
No. I would never defend despicable behavior. That's, ever, especially ones that have been proven in a court of law. Which none of his
definitely was not.
But, I'm teasing. I'm not going to be that guy. That's a joke. That's a bit. Anyway, guys, anything else?
I think we covered it all. Avengers is good. I'll just say that.
It's a good movie.
At the end of the day, it's good.
It's an event.
Yeah.
It's fun.
I can't wait to see it again.
In many ways, it lived up to the hype, which is incredible to think, but it did.
It really is. I got to hand it to the Russo brothers for the balancing act, especially. If there's one thing that I thought was impossible, because like I said at the beginning of the pod, I was curious to see how Joss Whedon could do it with the first Avengers, let alone, the Russo brothers doing it here with the Infinity War, and they did it. I mean, really incredible, and with good meaning and purpose too. If there's anyone that got a shaft, it didn't feel like a shaft, which is I'm going to say is Black Panther, because we just got his film 2 months ago, and so we didn't really need necessarily him to have as full of an arc, but he just kind of was there to help, but everything in Wakanda was still pretty dope.
Wakanda forever. Wakanda forever. Just kidding. Wakanda until the end of the movie, and then the king dies. So yeah, Wakanda not forever.
So you guys are talking about how you had kind of a louder theater. I was expecting that 7:00 Friday night. It wasn't the Thursday. It was the Friday. And it actually wasn't as loud as I thought. Like there was a couple of entrances and things happened. People got loud, but the one time it was audible to the entire theater was when Black Panther, because he's actually one of the first ones to go into dust, right?
I think he was. Yeah.
He goes to dust, and the guy who's definitely in the furthest back of the theater goes, "Oh, bullshit."
Appropriate reaction, I'd say.
I'm telling you, the crew behind me was so distraught over their king. And I wanted to tell him, I was like, guys, it's not, don't worry, it's okay, it's gonna be okay. Time Stone. Hashtag Time Stone.
Coming back.
He's coming back. He's coming back. Also, we don't know that they're dead, right? They also could have gone to another portal.
Exactly. Exactly.
There was some wild conspiracy theory. I'm trying to remember where I read it about how everyone else lived. The people that didn't turn to ash are the ones that died and are another dimension.
Ooh.
Aaron, I think that you and maybe you and I have talked about The Leftovers.
Yes, we certainly have. A show that David's never seen.
That's not TV, it's HBO.
Taken right out of The Leftovers.
And
definitely.
One of the stars from The Leftovers is actually in Avengers, Carrie Coon.
Oh yeah, one of the
she's Midnight something or other. I don't know what her.
Yeah, Midnight something. I saw that. Yeah,
Proxima Midnight.
Yeah, that is
Midnight
her.
Proximity.
Yeah,
you would have thought that she would have been like, "Excuse me,
been here before."
Isn't this kind of like?
Yeah.
Well, I will say that Avengers, as weak as the ending was, actually has a better ending than Leftovers, the TV series. So.
So should I never get into it?
It's worth checking out. It's worth checking out.
No, it's not.
But don't fall in love with it.
No, it's not.
No, I'm not gonna watch it.
If you start it, you have to finish it.
That's what I'll do.
You don't need to start it.
Okay, good.
Don't. You're okay.
The first season is really good, though.
Me for Lost, right?
Yeah.
Oh no, the second and third season are good.
This is great. Presnall, Are you gonna come back
Thank
and
you.
do this again with us sometime?
I want to say yes, but you guys are kind of getting me in my area. Like, you brought me on for a Tarantino movie and the ultimate Marvel movie.
Well, you're the
Like,
expert. That's why we come to you.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. Look, you two were managers at the theater. I was just a manager in training. Remember,
that's right.
I look up to you. You guys lead me, guide me. Okay. The next, I know you're not able to see as many movies. You know, with not newborn. How old is Ellen?
He's 4 months old.
4 months. Harder to
4
get
months
out
old.
with a 4-month-old. I understand. But the next time you're able to catch a flick, you let us know.
We were when my wife and I when we were in the theater, we were watching the previews and we saw the next Mission Impossible movie, and we were like,
dude.
next one, we need a babysitter. Okay.
Talk about a great trailer, by the way.
Best trailer I've seen this year.
It's
that
incredible.
mustache. Oh my god.
No, I know, Henry.
I feel like I've seen it before.
Also, next time, can we get a Heather cameo?
I think she's actually in the back.
I think
Move the camera. She's probably right there.
She's sitting there waiting. She's like, I've got opinions.
Better opinions
I've
than Jeff.
gotten a few shush text messages. You'll wake the baby.
Mission accomplished.
Oh, there it is again.
Well, I think that's it, guys. Thank you for being my Avengers squad to talk about this movie. I think we all ultimately sounds like we all really liked it. And recommend going to see it. It's a good film to see in theaters on the big screen, especially if you have Movie Pass. Because what's it to you? Just don't see it twice on Movie Pass now, because that's not allowed.
I've heard from other people that just to be in the theater, knowing what's going to happen, and just hear the reaction of people who've seen it for the first time, all the deaths, is worth it.
I'm excited. I'm seeing it with a buddy of mine. I think either on Tuesday or Wednesday, and I can't wait. I'm excited. It's one of those movie events, and it just broke the domestic opening box office record, both domestic and worldwide. 250 million estimated, 650 million worldwide. So it's got its sights set on Avatar for the overall worldwide. So we'll see if it surpasses.
James Cameron just woke up.
Oh yeah, James Cameron's like, all right.
Say?
Well, am I doing 4 more Avatars? Okay, we're doing 8 more. 8 more in 4D, smell-o-vision. Anyway, thanks for joining me, guys.
Thank you.
Should we hold on to our butts, or is there a Avengers saying we should say?
I don't think there is.
All right.
There is an Avengers saying.
I'm going to make you... Aaron loves this, by the way. It's his favorite thing. We're going to do Avengers Assemble on 3. 3, 2, 1. Avengers Assemble!
Assemble.
Perfect.
Incredible.
All right.